Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be doing the Forgotten Realms tag, which was created by Liam's Lyceum and who also tagged me in this. This is a whole bunch of prompts from Forgotten Realms books and series, and even though I watched this video, which will be linked in the description, of course, I'm imagining I'm going to mispronounce a lot of them, because I'm not nearly familiar with all the Forgotten Realms lore as he is. But definitely check his channel out. He's got a ton of, Forgotten Realms D&D type stuff, but he also just reads a bunch of cool books. And I've heard about so many books and series from him that I haven't heard about anywhere else. So a lot of great stuff on his channel, so make sure to check it out. Once again, link in the description. But with that, there are a lot of prompts, so we're going to get started here. The first prompt is Drizzt, and it's name an exceptional swordsman or warrior. So I decided to go with Gar from The Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne, because he is a fantastic swordsman, and there are a lot of good swordsmen I could have picked from, but Gar was my favorite, and so that's specifically why I'm going with Gar instead of any of the other swordsmen from there. Number 2, Erevis Cale, a character with a haunted past and hope for a better future. So I decided to go with Elaine from Crown of Stars. It's actually the name of this series. This is the last book, also Crown of Stars, and I'm reading it right now, which is why I had it handy. But Elaine is a character which is, none of it is his own fault, but he's like gone through the ringer. There are some specific things that just like literally reminded me of the kind of thing Robin Hobb would do to Elaine, but he still has hope to make the world a better place and to continue on, and so I figured it was a great selection for that prompt there. So number 3 is Elminster, a wise mentor, and I swear I chose this before I actually watched the video, because whenever I get tags, usually I'll copy the questions, I'll start coming up with basic answers, and then I'll watch the video, just so that I'm not like specifically thinking along the same lines and just kind of coming up with whatever. So I filled in most of them. I had a few left I was filling in, and I'm watching, and of course, he knew this is what I was going to do. But I also picked Dr. Morganis from Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, because Dr. Morganis is a very important character in a kind of a different way in this book, but it's just looked at as a very, very wise mentor to our main character, Simon. But also, I love what this book does, where the wise characters are very much not always around to help, and a lot of times people have to figure out things on their own. So this series did it really differently than a lot do, and that's something I enjoyed. But Dr. Morganis was definitely one of the better wise mentor type characters. So immediately is what came into my mind as well. Number 4, Seven Sisters, favorite set of siblings or family. So I decided for this one to go with the Cullen family from the Stormlight Archive, because I really like Adolin and Dalinar, and Renarin is starting to be a little bit more relevant as well. So the Cullens in general, if you consider Navani, she's basically part of the family. So if you consider her as well, I suppose that works also. But yeah, all the characters I've just really enjoyed coming from that family in the Stormlight Archive. So I thought that worked. I was really thinking, I don't know that many books that have siblings that I enjoy, because I was trying to go to the siblings part, and I was drawing a blank and couldn't think of anything else. Number 5, Minsc and Boo, a hero with an awesome sidekick. So this is another one I was actually struggling to think of an answer, and so I decided to go with something which I don't know that this is 100% within the realm of what it's looking for, but I went with Tehol and Bug from, I believe that plotline I'm thinking of is in Midnight Tides. It's been a while since I've read Malazan, so it's all kind of blended. But we have Tehol, who's a very unlikely hero, and Bug, who's a very unlikely sidekick, and just all of the things that they do. It was one of my favorite plot lines. One of the things that made me get into this book, where we otherwise have or even them are completely new characters. So really, really enjoyed their scenes and the parts of the book that they were in. So I thought that would be good. And it's just fun to think of Bug as a sidekick, because if you've read, you know they're both very unlikely options for those roles, but it kind of works. Number 6, Alias and Dragonbait, a great duo. I think duo, immediately I gotta think Fitz and the Fool from Realm of the Elderlings. I love Fitz and the Fool together, and that duo is just one of the best that I've ever read. Alright, number 7 is Manshoon, a villain you like. And there's a lot of villains that I think are well written, but I was trying to think of one I specifically like. One that always comes to mind is Hrathen from Elantris. And Hrathen, I thought, was just a really well written character, but I really liked the way the character was developed, even though he is the villain of the story. There was a lot that just kind of worked, and a character that I really enjoyed. Would have liked to see more of in general, so I thought that'd be a good one for that one. Alright, so number 8 is Neverwinter, Jewel of the North, and it's a setting or a series of book not as grand as it once was. So for this one, I decided to go with the Dragonlance Chronicles, the original by Bryce Hickman. This one because I remembered it as being much more grand than it was. I did a reread of this this year, and I had reread it for the first time a while back, and it had been like 20 years at that point. And I remembered it as really good, but with the additional rereads, I just kind of more so the nostalgia wore off a little bit, and I realized, unfortunately, not quite as grand. Still, some stuff to be enjoyed. There's still parts of this I like, and I do want to read more Dragonlance, but this original trilogy definitely leaves some to be desired, I have found. Number 9, Waterdeep, City of Splendors, name of book focused on one city primarily. So I went with The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch, because this first book takes place pretty much all in Cormyr. The third one, I think, mostly takes place in one city as well. Very specifically, I thought this worked. This was such a fun book with our character Locke, the Thorn of Cormyr, and just all of the mischief the Gentleman Bastards get into. And I can't wait for the fourth one to hopefully come out sometime in the next couple years. I'm still holding out hope for this series because I really want to continue it. 10, Baldur's Gate, name a setting where darkness lurks around every corner. So for this one, I had to go with Shader Logoth from The Wheel of Time. Literally in the old tongue means where shadows wait, and is definitely the kind of place where around every corner shadows, darkness, and more waiting for you. So I thought that was great. I got the Eye of the World because that's the first appearance of Shader Logoth, although not the last. Number 11, Candlekeep, a book that makes you think. There are a few I could have gone with here, but I went with one I more recently read, which is Shadow and Summer, Book 1 of the Long Price Quartet by Daniel Abraham. This is a book that it's very different, but it poses quite a lot of questions, and it's a very complex story. The characters are very complex, and it's really, from what I've heard more and more of the series, all about the long-term effects of people's actions. And so this already made me think quite a bit. And then I was on the live show, which I'll link below as well, that included Philip Chase, who just broke down a lot of things in so much more detail that it gave me even more to think about. So I thought this definitely fit, and I feel like the rest of the series, which I'm so excited to get to, will continue to just be an amazing thought process going forward. Number 12, Icewind Dale, a chilling book. Chills, cold setting, or creepy. So I just went with the cold part. I decided to go with Winter's Heart by Robert Jordan, which is book 9 of The Wheel of Time. And as you can see, I mean, it's even a wintry setting, you know, for the cover here. So this was during a very long, very cold winter that's brought up a lot. There's a lot of things I could have chosen for winter, but I decided to go with this one. All right, number 13, Cormier, a good Arthurian book. So I used to read a ton of Arthurian books when I was younger, and I have not read nearly as many of late, which I'd like to read more of. So I went for this one, though, with The Once and Future King by T.H. White. I'm pretty sure I read this at some point, but I don't specifically remember reading it. I have not had this copy very long. I picked this up at half-price books. I'm pretty sure I read it when I was younger, though, and so I got it. But this is known to be, I think, one of the, the world's greatest fantasy classic, so it's supposed to be really, really fantastic with the story of Arthur. So definitely one I want to reread, or at this point, I think it counts as the first time reading because it's been so long. I'm pretty sure I've read it. But so I went with this because I know I read some other ones, but I just don't have a strong enough memory of any of the Arthurian books that I have read because I read many of them so long ago. So I went with that one. All right, 14. Calimshan, list a book with a great desert setting. Once again, there are a few desert books I could have picked, but I'm like, let's just go with Dune. Dune's the obvious answer. You know, it's all about that desert, and I figured it worked. My copy was easy to reach. I didn't want to have to. I had to dig for a lot of books because there's a lot of prompts on this one. So I'm like, let's keep it easy with this one. We'll go with Doom. 15. Sembia, name a book series whose setting becomes less basic as the series or book goes on. So there are several like longer epic fantasy series I can mention here where we start with a smaller setting and it continues to grow and grow. You know, The Wheel of Time, Realm of the Elderlings, Crown of Stars, all series that do that where we start to expand more and more of the world. But I went with something that's a bit more, and it's somewhat the setting, somewhat the story, but I wanted to talk about this one, just the Cycle of Fire trilogy by Jamie Wertz. We do start pretty small scale in the first book with both the setting and just kind of the story, but things get much, much more complex from where it starts out seeming very basic. We expand to other areas, other things in general, and it just gets a lot more complex. It's hard to go into too many details, but there's a lot of stuff you wouldn't expect. Things get really, really build up way more the further you get into this series. 16, Dale lands a comfortable fantasy setting. So I thought about this one too, and the one I went might kind of be cheating, but I decided to go with The Land, specifically in Lord Fal's Bane, when it's still very comfortable, because The Land is described as being just so beautiful and just natural. Like, you can just walk and pick Aliantha, which are like really big sweet grapes basically, and it's just everything's beautiful and peaceful and nice, and it doesn't stay that way, but especially at the beginning of Lord Fal's Bane, The Land is a very comfortable setting at that point. 17, Fae, name a book or series with undead or zombie-like beings. Yeah, Undead, very first thought is the Obsidian Path series by Michael R. Fletcher. And I picked She Dreams of Blood because we get lots of undead. We got them in both, but there's even more in this one. Done in a really creative way, and this is a series I've really been enjoying. I can't wait for the third book. I know he's been hard at work on it, so I'm excited to see what happens there. But you got plenty of undead in She Dreams of Blood. Absolutely plenty of them. All right, and then 18, Cholt, a book with a wild setting. I had to go with Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames because literally it takes place in a place mostly called the Wild. So you kind of had to go with that. I actually don't have a copy of that anymore. I need to get one. I still have the second book. That was one too. When I first read it, I was given very different expectations of what it was, and so I didn't enjoy it as much. But I do think it's a book I'd enjoy more if I go back to it and know what I'm getting into. So I need to get another copy of that, but I figure that's still the perfect answer for this one. So Kings of the Wild, Nicholas Eames. It is. So those are my answers for the Forgotten Realms tag. Make sure, like I said, to check out Liam's video on his channel. He's got a lot of great content. I really enjoy his videos. He does some really cool analysis on different books. And like I said, just talks about all kinds of really unique stuff or just stuff that's not talked about nearly as much as others. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like. Check the link in the description for the Wizardly Duo Discord if you want to chat books or chat anything else. Always a ton of fun, lots of discussion there. We'd love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.